everyone! Well, after a relatively easy second day, it was time for another early start for day 3. Our alarms went off at 3:30 a.m., but I have to admit, we may have snoozed a few times.
Once or twice.
Good morning. Day 3.
Day 3. Woke up at 4 a.m., maybe a little before. A little tired.
It's a good thing Kendrick always gets up to make coffee, no matter what time it is. Today, we would ascend our second 14er, Mount Sneffels. But first, we had a long drive just to get to the trailhead in Yankee Boy Basin.
About an hour and 20 minutes of driving, in the dark to be exact. We took our photography class up here a few weeks prior, and the road was in pretty rough shape. But when we arrived this morning, you can tell that the San Juan road crews had once again worked their magic.
Day 3, and we're headed up our second 14er, Mount Sneffels. And
a little over, I think, 14,150-ish feet. Gonna do a fun little ridge to the summit, and maybe even come down that way. We'll see.
Yay! Let's go! Once again, we were rewarded for our early start with great views of the alpenglow on the mountains, the sun lighting up the basin, and of course, beautiful wildflowers everywhere.
Yankee Boy Basin is another uber classic location for spotting wildflowers in Colorado. From the moment we started hiking, we were surrounded by blooming flowers everywhere.
We had about 3 miles of hiking before our ascent up Mount Sneffels really started to get difficult. Along the way, we were surrounded by flowers and finally passed Wright's Lake, which had a perfect reflection of all the nearby 13,000-foot peaks.
Mount Sneffels stands proud, with lots of great views from the nearby Ouray and Ridgeway areas. However, the routes up and down the mountain leave a lot to be desired. The standard route is steep and loose, so we chose to ascend via the non-standard Southwest Ridge route, which is a little bit more scrambly, and then descend the standard loose grease slope.
Alright, we're just about to head up to the ridge over here. That looks like a lot of fun. Then we're gonna all the way to the top. That easy.
Should take a couple minutes.
Yeah, you know, 1 or 2.
Eventually, we found ourselves on top of the ridge at Blue Lakes Pass, which, you guessed it, has beautiful views of the gorgeous Blue Lakes down below.
Our route from here to the summit was steep, loose, and more of a scramble than the easy hike we had up our first 14er, Handy's Peak.
I'll admit, if you're not mentally prepared for the route and comfortable on semi-crappy rock, it could be a little taxing. If for no other reason, I love this route up because it avoids the steep scree slope on the standard route and makes it a more enjoyable experience. For me anyways.
So there were what I would consider some pretty darn steep, scrambly parts, which totally sketched me out because the rock was like super loose. But I took my time, relaxed, and made it up the harder parts really without too much worry.
As you near the top, the loose rock eventually relents, and the rest of the scramble to the summit is really quite pleasant. I've done this route a handful of times and think I go a different way every time, but they're all good.
So, after several hours of hiking, scrambling, and taking tons of photos, we finally found ourselves on the summit at 14,150 feet on Mount Sneffels. Yay, we made it on the top of Mount Sneffels.
Pretty awesome day out. Gorgeous views in all directions and just a pretty enjoyable hike. All right, we are on top of our second 14er of our 14er project, Mount Sneffels, and it's a pretty good example of why I love the San Juan region of Colorado. I mean, it's just gorgeous views, 360 degrees, and it's just hard to beat.
Yay, we made it! Of course, Kendrick always takes the alternate route, and he doesn't always tell me what they're going to be like. And for him, it was like a walk in the park, but it was a little bit sketchier than I thought it was going to be, which I guess made it kind of fun. I mean, there was a little bit of adrenaline there for me. Had to like hang on to everything. So
from the top of Mount Sneffels, cheers to another gorgeous day in Colorado.
Cheers to making it back down in one piece.
I'll take it.
We definitely didn't get the solitude we experienced on Handy's Peak. There were loads of hikers on top today.
Once again, the 360-degree views were spectacular. Sneffels is surrounded by several high 13,000-foot peaks, and we could see the blue lakes down below. There were also shadows from the moving clouds, which made the light dance across everything in sight. Alrighty, time to head down. I envision spending at least half the descent like on my butt, so I'm ready.
Beer and distilleries await.
Oh gosh, that's right, we got a lot of other stuff to do today. Let's go.
Our descent was steep and loose with lots of other hikers, which means we had to be careful in most areas to avoid knocking rocks loose on people below. Just below the summit is a V-notch that provides easy access to what's called the Lavender Col. We made our way down to the 13,500 foot saddle at the bottom of the col before the really fun part started. From the saddle, we had about 800 feet down a steep, bald scree slope that felt a little bit like a slip and slide. Yikes. So I ended up scooting along on my butt most of the way down, while Kendrick tried staying upright. Yeah, that might not have been the best idea. I ended up scraping up my leg just a little bit. It's not a proper mountain run unless there's blood or mud involved. And in this case, there was some blood. Once we got down the loose stuff, we were finally able to start jogging down back through the wildflowers. It's pretty neat starting in the early morning and finishing in the afternoon. You get to see different perspectives on everything, and the changes in light can be pretty dramatic. When we returned to the truck, we were conveniently located near dense patches of wildflowers. So, we decided to pick one out to identify as the third wildflower in our project. Our third wildflower is this little beauty right here called the Foothills Mertensia. Now the name is a little bit misleading because yes, they are found in the foothills, but they are also found all the way up into high alpine regions. And I love them because they look like little bluebells, and I think they're cute. Also conveniently located near where we were parked was our fourth water feature, the Twin Falls of Sneffels Creek.
Now, if you choose to drive up Campbird Road, you will be treated to Twin Falls. Twin Falls is in Yankee Boy Basin, which is where we are right now, and it's the first in a series of cascades to just seem to come all the way down the mountainside, and I don't know, it's just a pretty awesome sight to see whenever you drive, about a half mile or so up in the Yankee Boy Basin.
This is one of the best places to see wildflowers. There's just fields carpeting the hills with flowers. We stopped here to get some photos, enjoy the peaceful sound of the falls, and of course, fly the drone around a bit.
Earlier in the day, we drove up Campbird Road and part of Yankee Boy Basin Road, all in the dark. Lucky for us, we'd get to return down this road in the daylight and see all of the beautiful scenery we missed. Which brings us to our third featured scenic drive, Campbird Road. This road begins just south of Ouray and goes for about 5 miles towards Imogen Pass Road, Governor Basin, and Yankee Boy Basin. Overall, the drive is pretty easy, though it does get a little bumpy in spots. If you plan to continue up into Yankee Boy Basin, then high clearance, 4-wheel drive is pretty much mandatory.
Campbird Road is full of great views, wildflowers, a shelf road, and even a section that was blasted into the mountainside.
It had already been a long day and we were getting pretty hungry. But first, we planned a trip to our 4th distillery, KJ Wood Distillers in Ouray. They have a vodka, gin, bourbon, and rye whiskey. Of course, I went with a neat pour of their rye whiskey.
And I decided, why not try them all? I think we both agreed that the rye whiskey was by far our favorite.
So this is our 100% unmalted rye. It's 96 proof, aged 2 years in New American oak.
In addition to the great rye, it's also pretty hard to beat the patio views at their tasting room. While we were there, we were lucky enough to meet the great family behind RV Medic.
Warren, Rhonda, Wes, and Marilyn were so kind. They even surprised us with a little gift of a bottle of the rye whiskey that Kendrick and I loved so much. So, if you're ever in Grand Junction, make sure to stop by RV Medic and tell them Mandy and Kendrick say hi.
And finally, it was time to eat at a brewery. So, we headed to the 3rd brewery in our project, Ouray Brewery, for some much needed food and, of course, a beer.
First thing I noticed when we walked in was the huge swings they had for seats at the bar. I didn't even give Kendrick a choice of where we were going to sit. I just hopped on a swing. The Ouray Brewery is family owned and operated, and we even had the owner's daughter pouring our beer.
With chicken wings in one hand and a beer in the other, we sat back and listened to our bartender talk about life in Ouray.
All of the kids work in the restaurant, parents run the restaurant, all of the local kids work here in the summer, which is really cool. We just have fun. I think we call ourselves Uranians. Me and my 3 little brothers are the 6th generation of kids in our family to grow up in Ouray, which I think is really interesting. A beautiful place to be from. That's a nice place to call home.
Ice climbing is a huge thing in Ouray, and the brewery celebrates this by decorating the downstairs bar area with old climbing gear and photos, and ice tool picks that you can donate money to put your name on.
We had one last stop before heading back over the pass to Silverton, where Little Bear was waiting for us. So, we stopped at our 3rd coffee shop, Mouse's Chocolates and Coffee. This place has tons of sweets and ice cream. After a big hiking day, it was pretty hard to resist the temptation to get one of everything.
My personal favorite since the first time I came to Mouse's several years ago has been the scrap cookie. This is pretty much what it sounds like. They take scraps from their chocolates and throw them all together to create a delicious cookie that always hits the spot. Of course, I had to get one of these to go along with our coffee.
Now that we are 3 days into our project, it seems appropriate to recap the progress we've made of everything we're featuring so far. 2 14ers, 4 distilleries, 3 breweries, 3 coffee shops, 3 flowers, 3 water features, and 3 scenic drives.
Well, I for one feel like we're making pretty great progress. As for day 3, any day that features hiking a 14er, visiting a distillery, and visiting a brewery is alright in my books.
For me, hiking up Mount Sneffels was significantly more difficult than going up Handy's Peak, which had me a little bit nervous knowing that we had 12 more to go. But I've never been one to let nerves stop me from trying, so there was only one way to go: forward.
And upward.
And up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to follow along with the rest of our 14er project by subscribing to this YouTube channel. You can read more about each day and find links to the places we went. Also, find out more about our photography workshops and guided backpacking trips on mandyleaphoto.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mandy Lea Photo and at Kendrick Calloway. So here's to 11 more days exploring colorful Colorado. Love and light.
Alright. How now, brown cow? How now, brown cow? Alright, I got this.